Hi, you're on the Alice Reddit Stories channel. Subscribe to my channel as well as to my Facebook, the link is in the description. Enjoy watching. Story 1. My husband is the worst sexual partner I've ever had. Repost plus final update. Original post, January 7, 2022, and original BORU, July 21, 2022. Been together a few years, we had sex before marriage, so this wasn't a surprise. I'm not really upset by it because I really love him, just felt like getting it out in the open. He has gotten me to climax before, but I'd say it's a 1:15 ratio on when he climaxes to when I do. He tries to give oral, but it's just bad, it feels awkward and it actually gets me out of the mood more than into it. The only dirty talk he uses are reused lines from porn like, "Have you been naughty?" Foreplay is over in less than 5 minutes. I brought these things up numerous times. I've spent the money on toys, lingerie, things to make us both feel sexy and explore kinks. I've tried to gently guide him during sex to what I might like. But even with it all, I could predict with 95% accuracy the exact steps he will take when having sex every time. Still love him, we have equal sex drives, so it's not an issue of compatibility. I just help myself when it inevitably happens. From the comments, I've tried to have a direct conversation about it multiple times, mentioning how it would be better if foreplay was longer, maybe stop using the word naughty. But he gets very hurt by the comments and then will stop having sex because he feels too much pressure to perform. The hiatus only ends when I stop giving suggestions for a week and we just get back to the same old. It's immature of him, I get that, but I guess having any sex is better than having a husband pissy around the house because he's sexually frustrated. In the comments, people suggested sex therapy, a number of books and positive reinforcement as strategies of improvement. First update, July 21, 2022. It's been a few weeks and I took everyone's advice. I kept trying more positive reinforcement during sex like some suggested. I tried being even more vocal in guiding. I didn't cave anymore when he started getting pissy that it now feels like a chore. He seemed to be getting more frustrated, so I kept asking questions. He said the vibrator made him feel emasculated, and I asked him to clarify. He kept saying, "I wish we could go back to how sex was when we were first dating. It wasn't all this work." My heart kind of broke because I felt that he had no interest in my pleasure. I felt like a fleshlight to mark off his checklist. So I told him we need to have the talk. I've made my mistakes in the past, I faked orgasms, I haven't done it in a while because I realized it did nothing to help, but I realized it gave him rose-colored glasses about our early sex life. I told him that I wanted to see a sex therapist. Then came a lot of excuses. Well, that's just wasted money, there's probably a book that will tell us everything we need to know, they're just going to lecture me, that I need to be a better lover, I just need to get into shape and that will help my stamina. I told him it has nothing to do with his stamina, the issue is that I'm not able to give any honest feedback without him getting frustrated. Anything different from the norm resulted in him being frustrated. So if I can't give feedback, then the discussion will have to go through a therapist. The next part surprised me. He kind of had a come to Jesus moment. I think he realized the sex was never great for me. We talked and cried for a while. I told him that I felt like he had no interest in my pleasure and how isolating it felt when he would climax and he would get up to leave. I asked how he would feel if I climaxed first and just left him to deal with himself, and I think he realized what a bummer that is. I told him that the disregard for intimacy has made me feel like we haven't been able to be as close as a couple as we should be. He took it in. I think it really shook him when I told him sometimes I would beg him to put it in because I was so uncomfortable with the way he went about sex. I wasn't trying to hurt him. But I felt like he kept referring to when times were better, and I had to be honest and let him know that the sex was never great. We talked about how we can do better. He became very open to the idea of talking to a sex therapist. So, I'm really hopeful. I was misguided to let myself be unhappy for so long. I think it was unfair to him, me, and our relationship. I'm going to try and do better about being gentle, yet vocal, and try not to back down if he gets pissy. It's probably best to discuss why he is getting pissy, and that my feedback isn't a diss, but that sex is a process and the process should be fun, so we both need to be open to receiving feedback. Edit: I've had a few people ask me why I would fake orgasms. When me and my husband first started dating, we were pretty open, and he told me how one of his exes asked that he always helps her climax, and he told me how much he hated it and how awful he found the experience. That's why I started faking it, because any suggestions or longer than usual bad sex in an effort to get me to climax resulted in him getting upset. I didn't know how to deal with him getting frustrated, but I also couldn't deal with 30 minutes of dry pumping, because as some women knows, it hurts. That only lasted about a month. Once I stopped, he didn't seem to care that I no longer seemed to be getting pleasure from the activity, and I was too nervous to deal with his frustration to bring it up. Not my best moment. From the comments, personally, it got this far because my partner is great in so many other areas that I felt close to him, and it wasn't until later that I realized our relationship is not as deep as it could be. He might get pissy taking feedback, but when I get overwhelmed by noises, he knows tapping soothes me, and he'll tap along on my arm. Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing, thank you. He might suck at cunnilingus, but I came home one day during the pandemic and he made a little home bar in our small apartment and bought scotches and dark chocolate because he knew I missed going out on tasting dates. He is a great guy, but he has some ego issues. Nobody wants to start a relationship harping on the person, and you hope that maybe your guy will just take some time to learn what you like, so you go along with the bad sex. But one day you realize it's been years, and you feel resentful or apathetic that he never seemed willing to learn what you like, and it's become a barrier to discovering true intimacy. But like anything, you can't fix what you don't think is wrong. And it required me having to create some hurt feelings in the pursuit of being truthful for him to see what was wrong. And I think when I was able to convey that this discussion wasn't me trying to be hurtful, and it wasn't me trying to denounce the pleasure he got from sex before, but that we were missing an opportunity to become a better couple, that he started listening. I don't know exactly how it will go. I'm sure there are still going to be some hurt feelings in the future. But at least he seems open to making it a better experience for both of us. Second update, September 16, 2022. The previous stories are on my profile, but I've had a few people still reaching out for updates, so I thought I should update if when anything major happened. Well, the skinny of it is that I'm planning on telling him that I want a divorce. He bought that book, She Comes First, that multiple commenters recommended, and the sex actually got a lot better. I was ecstatic. But as some users pointed out, there has been some theme in our marriage that my feelings were not really being considered in other areas of our lives. His substance abuse has been consistently bad throughout the marriage, and I've tried to offer help, and offered to pay for therapy for years, and I was brushed off every time. I've realized I can't have kids with this man, none yet, but want them someday. I've tried for years to be better for him and try and help him get better, but I've been disappointed at every turn. He is a great guy, but his demons make him a less than ideal partner, and I don't think I have the energy to hold him above water while I'm drowning. Sorry to everyone that was very hopeful for the relationship, I was too, and I am devastated. To those going through sexual issues in their relationship, I would recommend reading She Comes First, because it did seem to help. Story 2, OOP's cousin pulls a prank on his wife that almost ruins his marriage. Original post posted on October 16, 2022. Me, F30, my cousin, M27, his wife, F26, his life imploded because of a prank. What shall I do? My cousin, he grew up with our family, so he is more like my brother due to him being an orphan, used to be a prankster. Some of his pranks are a bit much, but me, my mother, my father, my sister, and my older brother, have always found the humor in his pranks. When he got older, he became more mature and the pranks pretty much stopped. He got married 2 years to an angel of a woman. She has a heart of gold and a pure soul. 6 months ago, I broke my foot and she became my nurse. I didn't ask for any help, but she came to my house the day the hospital discharged me and ordered me to eat and watch Netflix while she took care of me and the house. Bottom line is, the girl is awesome. On to the issue at hand. As I said in the beginning, my cousin used to be a prankster but stopped around 6 years ago. But for some reason, he decided to prank his wife, let's call her Aaliyah, with the 24-hour ignoring your partner prank. Before I go on, Aaliyah had a terrible first marriage where her ex used silent treatment and basically controlled her. She told me that she used to cry and beg him to talk to her. She's a people pleaser and hates the idea of someone angry at her. She is in therapy for that. My cousin knows all about that, but for some idiotic reason, he decided to prank her. According to my cousin, he ignored her for like 5 hours before she contacted me in tears saying that my cousin won't talk to her, and he left the house and he was not answering her calls and that she doesn't know what she did. I came to their house and called him. He answered and I asked him what is going on. He asked what I meant. I explained to him what Aaliyah said and he laughed and said he was coming. I knew instantly it was a prank and a very stupid one. Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing, thank you. He came home and was laughing saying it was a prank. But his laughter died immediately when he saw the look on her face. She was beyond hurt, and the more he said, "I'm sorry, baby, it was a prank," the more she turned her face away from him. After 20 minutes of him saying different variations of "I'm sorry" and her not saying a single word, she stood up, packed a bag, and left the house. Now it is my cousin's turn to be a crying mess, calling 30 times and messaging her God knows how much, and her ignoring his existence. The difference is, this is not a prank. I'm there for her, and I've tried to not say anything about my cousin's mental state, so that I don't influence her decision. He's severely depressed and I'm genuinely worried about him, but I really don't want them to get a divorce. What can I do? How can I fix this? How can I be there for my cousin? I made it clear to him that what he did was beyond F up and maybe it was our fault for enabling his careless behavior when he was a teenager, and how disappointed we are in him right now. But as I said, he's more than a cousin to me and I cannot just stop loving him. All of this happened a week ago. What can I do? Sometimes I feel like F it. It ain't my problem, but I find myself checking on my cousin to make sure he eats and sleeps. Update 1 posted on October 18, 2022. Update. Me, F30, my cousin, M27, his wife, F26, his life imploded because of a prank. What shall I do? Hi guys. The moderators keep removed my post, go check my profile for the full story, but I thought you guys deserved an update since your responses were insightful and very helpful, so thank you for that. So I'll post it on my profile. I have a semi-conclusion to this story, but my father was doing surgery, so I waited till everything was okay with him, and it is, thank God. On to the update. I told my cousin that if he was going to visit my father, he needed to not make a scene and approach Aaliyah and try to talk to her. She called me telling me that she was coming to visit my father, and I told her she didn't need to come, but she insisted. He promised me he won't talk to her and that he'll wait in the cafe with my older brother. My father is the only one who doesn't know about the incident. We kept it to ourselves till the surgery and the recovery was done. Aaliyah came and went without a hint of a problem. When Dad was resting, I took my cousin to a nearby cafe and pretty much interrogated him. What you guys said about him using this as a punishment stuck with me, especially when he didn't do any pranks for 6 years. Even when he used to do pranks, they were more annoying physically than psychologically, like throwing water when you least suspected. Pulling the chair under you. I asked him, "You stopped 6 years ago, and all of a sudden you do this?" And to her, of all people, knowing her trauma? Before I go, I need to explain something. Some comments thought that Aaliyah was exaggerating with her reaction. He was ignoring her whilst he was at home. One-word answer, and generally being very cold to her. And when she called me was when he left the house and didn't answer her. The people who said that there is something behind his behavior were right. He was upset that she was spending way more time at her father's house. He's physically disabled and has a male nurse that takes care of him, but Aaliyah handles all her father's financial duties since her mother died. I asked him, "You knew about her situation before you guys got married?" "She told you everything." "Hell, I told you everything. I was the one introducing her to him." He said, "I know, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being left one more time by someone that I love." I asked him, "What do you mean by one more time?" He lowered his head and said in a voice almost ashamed, "I always felt that Mama," he calls my mother Mama, "preferred you guys, me and my siblings, over me. I saw red and I'm not proud of this, but I started to be really angry, and I wanted to slap him. His bio mother, my aunt, was my mother's younger sister. According to my father, I was like 5, my mother went into severe depression and the only thing that she could hold on to was my father, us, and him. She raised him and so did my father. I didn't know he wasn't my bio brother, but my cousin at the age of 16, for God's sake. That is how tight we were. And for him to say that devastated me and filled me with anger I didn't know I had. I was so close to slapping him when I saw he was crying really hard. He said, "I know it sounds crazy, and I'm sorry, but this is how I felt all my life." I didn't say anything, I just stood up and said, "You are going to therapy, and if refuse then lose my number." He just nodded and asked, "What about Aaliyah?" I said, "You'll leave her alone. And whatever she decides you'll go along with it." He nodded again whilst crying. We went back to my father's room and I left the hospital. I'm angry and heartbroken. I don't know what it's like to be an orphan, so I'll never pretend to understand him. But I swear to the Lord Almighty we did everything so that he'll never feel left out. What shall I do now? As for Aaliyah, I told her that she'll always find a friend and a sister in me and my other sister, no matter what she decides. So, there it is. I'm more confused than before. Tell me, what would you do? Update 2 posted on November 3, 2022. Final update. Me, F30, my cousin, M27, his wife, F26, his life imploded because of a prank. What shall I do? Hi guys. I really hope that the moderators don't remove this post. This will be my final update. My cousin is in therapy. He and his wife decided to have a temporary separation for 6 months. During these 6 months, he'll continue his individual therapy, and he and Aaliyah will have one day every week where they'll go for walks and talk openly and honesty about everything. Aaliyah suggested couples counseling as well, my cousin agreed to it. That's it. No one knows what will happen after these 6 months, but at least everyone is trying to heal. Thank you so much for everyone that commented and gave my advice. And to those wonderful people who messaged me privately and wished me and my family well, I thank you. Story 3. My wife, 34F, has voiced a month after our wedding that she is not romantically/intimately attracted to me, 32M, anymore and possibly wants out after 9 years together. The title says the ending of the story and the predicament I currently sit. For all of you, some context. My wife and I have been together almost 9 years. We've moved from PA to San Diego, 2017, and now back to PA in 2020. We've moved for her job, which is very stressful and a big deal. My job is a great but is less strict on location, so I've been able to support as needed. Over the past couple years, some issues have come up that we've never addressed head on, which have seemingly bubbled over now to make her feel the way she does. All of this really hit the fan when she brought it up 2 nights before our wedding, in October, last month, that romance and intimacy were a real, relationship ending, problems that we needed to address. I knew we had things to work on, but attributed it to typical ups and downs of a relationship in addition to the year-long stress we were dealing with. Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing, thank you. Since that night, I've also been nothing but everything she's asked me to be, but she has closed off to some extent. She's communicated that she's committed to working on it, but her body is telling her to give up. She even told me last night that she still doesn't know what she wants. The primary reasons for her feelings are below based on what she has told me and what I believe. We got a puppy that we love very much, but he is attached to us both, allowing little space. This has been a huge blocker of intimacy in our relationship. As of a few weeks ago, we've forced him to give space, which is what's needed. We both agree that the pup has been an issue we've never addressed. He's 3. Her work schedule is a nightmare. She has to wake up at 2 a.m. and is back around 1 to 1:30 p.m. every day. This makes her want to go to sleep early, 7 p.m., which doesn't work with my regular schedule, and it also impacts our ability to do things on the weekends as she's exhausted on Fridays. Saturday is really our only time to do things together. She doesn't fully admit that this is an issue, but of course it is IMO. Our intimacy and romance have died, and I'm actively trying for correct it now, but it may be too late. It all started with us dealing with the above things, and was also impacted by the normal stresses of this year, including some pre-wedding bickering. We were invited to 11 weddings, and had our own in 2022. Over this summer, we did bicker more than usual, but I think I've rebounded, not sure she has. This is where she is the most closed off. All of this is also to say that she has communicated to me that she is heavily reliant on me fixing these issues, as the man should be romantic and masculine in a relationship. Prior to the last year, it was very much a two-way street in that she showed me love actively. I'm going to counseling with her tonight and am trying to be the man she needs and loves. I am petrified of losing her and am trying to save my marriage. We both agree that something changed when we left San Diego, but we never did anything about it until now. She's communicated the severity of her feelings, which has me blindsided. Even last night she said that she hates that she didn't bring this up 6 to 12 months ago, as we could have dealt with it then and this wouldn't be an issue. I'm feeling lost and hopeless to some extent, but need to be the rock. Any advice would be appreciated as I try to light that spark again. In her words, we are the best team. Last thing I'll say to give the full picture, I do and have done a lot of romantic things for her in the past. Every day when she gets home from work, I kiss her and hug her. She then goes to take her nap. I always ask her to go on walks, which she sometimes doesn't want to do. This is all to say that I'm not absent, I just may have not been what she needed and I didn't know it. I'm afraid that it's too late. Thanks for the advice. I really need it. I'm seeing a counselor for myself in the morning. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel. There are many interesting articles ahead.